That's what it is. I'm the executive producer and showrunner for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood and the senior official for the United Wrestling Network. I'm joined today by two wonderful guests. First is my co-host for the evening, for the day, is Alyssa Marino. Hey, Alyssa.
Hi, everybody.
Good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
And, of course, our guest today, a very decorated man across the world of professional wrestling and making quite an impact here in the United Wrestling Network, the Dirty Daddy, Chris Dickinson.
Oh, thank you.
We like you. We really like you.
Happy Halloween. Happy
Halloween.
I've already started the Halloween fun today. So I'm doing pretty good. I'm happy it's Halloween. You know what? There's trick-or-treaters outside. I didn't think anybody would trick-or-treat, but
I was wondering because I heard some people were doing that in New York, but I hadn't heard for sure because that's not happening here in California.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely some fucking houses. Oh, excuse me.
Nah, it's okay. Let's say it. It's
There's
fine.
definitely some houses on the block. I was like, they're all ghouled out. People are just walking around all dressed up crazy. I'm like, oh damn, people ain't letting anybody ruin their Halloween fun.
I will say people are getting very creative with it. I've seen people with candy chutes or things that slide down railings.
Yeah,
I saw left outside a lot candy or whatever. People eating it for people to take.
Yeah, that's what my mom's doing out on Long Island. She just had a little basket out by the mailbox there.
What part of Long Island are you from?
I'm from Patchogue, South Shore, Suffolk County.
Oh yeah, and because I remember they were all saying, all of Hawkins' students, they were saying you were from NYWC.
Yeah, I started at NYWC about 10 years ago.
Really? Were you at NYWC when I wrestled Matt Tremont on the CCW show? You left in a barbed wire match. You remember that?
I was with them at the time. I was not at that show. I don't remember why.
Yeah, I bought so much heat or whatever from one of the NYWC guys for we used part of the cage that they used for the big blow off at the end.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, because they always had this cage against the wall or whatever that was just there because no one.
You Tremont used it somehow.
I could see that being an issue, even though it sounds like nothing.
Yeah,
but man, I'm sorry that was your experience there.
No, I've been to that building a trillion times.
Right.
I just never actually wrestled for NYWC.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I was gonna say there was I don't think we even owned the cage. There was a giant cage that we stored in the building because we had a big garage door. Whereas it was a legitimately 15-foot high steel cage, which in wrestling, usually the cage they usually measure it from the floor to the top of the cage, not the actual cage itself. So they're usually 10 or 12 feet at the most. This was a shoot 15 feet. And so most places you couldn't store it because you couldn't get it inside the building.
Yeah. A lot of good wrestlers out of that place. That would be great. And you started as a wrestler or a referee?
I started as a referee there. I trained as a wrestler. I recommend that to every ref that I talk to now is get some wrestling training. And then I use that to benefit my refereeing because, there's just so many things that didn't make sense to me then that make sense to me now only because I kind of went through that process.
Gotcha.
But at that time I was training, the head trainer was Pat Buck, and then it went to Alex Reynolds and Tony Nese. So
Alex Reynolds is great.
Yeah, I love Alex. Yeah.
Tony Nese, all three of those guys are great, but I've wrestled Alex a bunch. And Nese, but I wrestled Alex the most, and he's unbelievably good at wrestling.
Yeah, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's able to do on the stage he's at now. Coming back to Halloween talk a little bit. So I'm wearing black. Alyssa's wearing orange. Very Halloween colors. What shirt you got there?
This is a band called the Cocktail Twins. It's a group from the 80s, early 90s, kind of they're different. They're alternative music, kind of out there. They're really, really good. But this is my favorite album from them. It's called Heaven or Las Vegas. It's a really, really good album. You should listen to.
For sure.
Yeah.
What is the shirt that you always wear at Primetime Live? Is that Big Trouble Little China? Is it from that? I'm trying to remember.
It's the Jack Burton shirt from Big Trouble Little China.
Amazing.
I absolutely love Jack Burton. So.
It's a great movie. Such a classic.
Yeah, I kind of I needed something to make my own, and I started wearing that shirt, and I loved it so much. So I just kind of made it part of the deal, I guess. And it's I love that movie, and if people that get it. I started to see people over the last 2 years show up in the crowd in the shirt, they bought the shirt themselves. So it wasn't anything I ever tried to steal. I never sold anything with that likeness on it because I just wouldn't do that because it's more of like a paying homage to Kurt Russell. But I like that people will go out of their way to buy it themselves.
But sometimes I think lesser known stuff like that can be so cool because it's like when you see someone with that, you're like nobody knows that, and I know that. Like that's cool. So I feel like that's really fun. Yeah,
I mean, and it kind of goes with like people ask questions about all the time, you know, about like, what are your biggest influences in wrestling or whatever. And it's like, I think I'm at that point. Obviously, I love wrestling so much. It's like my whole life, right? I've been watching for so long, following all this wrestling. I find more influences from like outside things like movies and film, actors, musicians, and things like that that could influence me as in my role and what I'm supposed to be doing more than just the conventional wrestling influences, you know. And Kurt Russell is definitely like one of those people. Yes. So
I'd say across his whole body of work, quite a leaves a lot of things to remember. But, what's it called? I want to say that again, going back to that shirt. That I think I like about that too is that even if you don't get what the reference is, it's a cool enough design that's just like, oh, he's wearing a cool shirt.
Yeah, like the coolest shirt ever.
So before we started this broadcast today, Alyssa, you were just doing an episode of Let's Get Serial with a number of interesting guests from all across the wrestling world. So why didn't you invite the Dirty Daddy onto your program today?
I'm the biggest fan of the show. I'm literally like the biggest fan of the show.
I am so I figured you were a busy guy. You know, I knew that we had this coming up. I didn't want to make any schedule.
Yeah, right. Yeah, keep yapping, Marino. I know exactly what you're thinking. I just ain't good enough to be on the show. I get it.
Oh, absolutely not. What, Bonanno? What the hell? Are you trying to create some kind of argument between your announce team and the town? Like, what is this, Bonanno?
With you, it's over.
Look, I'm just trying to bring clarity to the situation because Chris, to keep up the kind of regimen that he has, to fuel his workouts, he has to eat a lot. I'm sure he's eating over 3,000 calories a day. What would you say, Chris? I don't know.
I've lost like about 20 pounds since we started the show.
Oh,
because I came to the show and I was like, oh, okay, like I have to like really get it together. So I was like getting it, like just wanted to tighten up a little bit. So I guess like I'm able to lose weight at around, I think like 28 to 2,700 calories a day. And most of it is actually carbohydrates. I'm sure if I cut the carbs more, I'd probably get like a little tighter, but it's just tough because feel like I'm getting like pretty sucked down, to be honest. Like 220 for me is kind of light. So I was like down at 220. I weighed myself today. I was like 224, but I'll eat like 28, 27, but sometimes I won't even eat all that because it still is a lot of food.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
2,800 calories of clean food is still a lot. Like I can only eat so much chicken breast and all that. So
what if it's Halloween candy, like that boxes of cereal that adds up?
Well, that's the thing. Cereal is actually really good for kind of like, I guess the industry professionals would say like a refeed day or like a cheat day. Not even so much a cheat day because cereal is technically kind of clean, especially if you eat like a rice-based cereal that digests really well, like a cocoa or a Fruity Pebbles or like Rice Krispies. Obviously, is like the most obvious choice. But think of like rice-based cereals, no high fructose corn syrup. Those like have really really good like fast digesting carbohydrates in them. That it's like really I would eat for years. After a workout, like 100 grams, 120 grams of carbohydrates worth of a rice-based cereal with like 2 scoops of the protein as the milk. So, you know what I mean? Like I would go through bags and bags and bags of like the Malto meal, like Fruity Pebbles, like it was going out of style. Oh, that cereal though, that one, I got that one like a couple of years ago, like 2016. See, I like cereal. You need me on your show. I'm a connoisseur. So I got that one. I got that one in like 2016 or so, and that was like my favorite. The chocolate Frosted Flakes with the marshmallows. Yes.
Way better than original Frosted Flakes, in my opinion. People say what they will. It's like, I think Frosted Flakes are kind of overrated sometimes, but the chocolate is very good.
That's it, Marino. Like we're gonna go to cereal war. We're gonna go to cereal war.
Frosted Flakes is the greatest. And then you know what's even better? Have you had the golden honey Frosted Flakes?
Yeah, I like the banana cream frosted flakes. They were good.
I've never had that. I've never
They
had
were pretty tasty.
that. But yeah,
No,
cereal.
we'll talk about something besides cereal, guys.
I'm sorry I'm running on about cereal and macronutrients and carbohydrates, but I eat a lot of cereal. I definitely love cereal. I love granola, but I can't eat it. It's like so calorie dense. It's like so easy to eat like 1,000 calories worth of granola, and it's such like a small amount of food that like fits in the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good if you're trying to make super gains, but not if you're trying to like stay tight. It's like I don't know about that.
Right. All right. Well, getting back to some more wrestling talk. So the United Wrestling Network Primetime Live. Chris, you've been there since day one. I wasn't in the building on the first day, but I know Alyssa, you were. So what were your impressions of Chris Dickinson on that first episode? He came in like a bat out of hell.
Yeah, it really set the tone quite literally, because it's like, you have the like the music plays, Marquez is there, and then it's like, boom, here comes Chris Dickinson. So I think that if there's ever a way to just make your presence known somewhere, it's interrupt like the owner of the company in the opening segment of the premiere episode of the show. So, I mean, there was definitely, I think, a feeling, a tension that I noticed around the building, just because it's like, okay, like, who the hell is this dude that just kind of waltzed in here and made this impression? So, yeah, definitely, there was a feeling. There was a feeling in the atmosphere, for sure.
I obviously I should have attacked you first for disliking Frosted Flakes so much. That's where I guess I should have focused my energy. But no, yeah, absolutely. I think the advantage I do have, or at least like because now in this whole era of empty room wrestling, empty arena wrestling, no fans wrestling, we started this company called Beyond Wrestling in like 2009, and we originally only wrestled in front of like the other wrestlers.
Right.
So
yeah. I was at a couple of those.
You were?
Yeah. They did one at NYWC once, and then I did one in maybe New Jersey, I want to say.
Wow.
This was like 10 years ago, probably.
I did a lot of that back in the day. And I feel like I have an advantage because I like got so used to wrestling and kind of like a room only like occupied by a few people that are supposed to be there. And it definitely is like a different type of energy, like, or feel, or you have to like bring some sort of different element to it than you would in a normal match, and really like trust your timing, because you have to like, you would think about when you're wrestling, the crowd almost gives you the cues as to when to start rocking and rolling, or so. Like being in the empty room environment, it's like you have to kind of really become like one with your opponent almost. I don't know, it's kind of strange, but the first day was great. I just poor Jordan Cruz. Man,
I don't know if there's one clip that just plays in my head a lot. I think you have him in maybe like a half crab, and you're just like stomping the hell out of his head, and it was like, there's some stink on that.
A lot of style. Yeah, I like Jordan Cruz though. He's really good.
Yeah,
he did really well. Like I thought, I thought he did a really good job without getting too into detail, but he did awesome. I thought he did really well. So I'd like to see him back.
Yeah. He will be back for sure. I appreciate the idea of you bringing up your experience with working in the empty room. Because in doing some things for Primetime Live, I'm more of a backstage producer in addition to being a referee. But I talk to talent like pretty much constantly on a daily basis for both Hollywood and for Primetime. And a thing that I have been noticing a lot in the even more experienced wrestlers who've been around for a while, have been on national TV, etc., that even they are hesitant to go into the empty room because they're so used to feeding off of the crowd like that. I don't think I've heard anyone say that is an advantage that they have, but I think that is very fascinating that that's something, because you've dealt with it before, that can't psych you out possibly the way that it could.
I like it better actually, like somewhat, like especially more if I'm assuming like the heel role, or being like really like being a real like piece of shit, like because when you vocalize everything, and when you're like talking down your opponent, or like trying to like communicate like literally like come on whatever, it's just so much more like in your face and like there, because you have to like be into it, you know what I mean? It's just you could be so much more vocal and verbal, and like you could hear every little thing because there's no like white noise or like people having conversations or anything going on. It's just different, I guess.
Because I feel like there can be like a mental piece of that as well, where it's if someone's paying attention to something else, if someone in the audience is like looking at their phone, I'm sure that in a way, if you catch that, might take you out of the moment too. So to know that you're really just able to laser in and focus in on your match, I think it definitely has its advantages, I'm sure.
You got to think about it like this too. Like you have to really love what you're doing and absolutely feel what you're doing. It's because like in order to build up enough adrenaline to do some of that stuff, or like at least do it well or do it convincingly or throw your whole body physically into what's going on, you do need to be like jacked up. So you have to really be like feeling it and be into what you're doing and love what you're doing. You're not like needing to rely on like an outside external source to like give you inspiration, you know?
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Throughout your years, have you worked an independent show that had so few people there that it felt like no one was there?
Oh yeah, are you kidding me? The most like horrible shows, deplorable conditions, like really bad like locker rooms, like just insane. Like I can't even believe this is real, but it's like I've seen it all. I've been around wrestling now since I was in high school, literally wrestling shows and going to shows and then wrestling on shows and every type of show, every level of like the indies. So yeah, you see everything, period.
For sure. So this past week, you wrestled Peter Avalon in the first round of the World Title Tournament. Pete is someone who has been in United for a long time. Is more recently featured on AEW. Have you crossed paths with Peter Avalon ever before Tuesday? Or
I think we met before. I'm pretty sure we've met, but no, I've never wrestled him. I've never worked with him before.
Say, because it seemed like Pete kind of had a fire in him a little bit that we haven't seen in a while. So especially with the title, the title contention on the line essentially, and going up against such a strong opponent as yourself. How was it kind of mixing up with Peter Avalon from a competitive standpoint?
I loved it, and I mean, a lot of people usually say that when they wrestle me or when they get in the ring with me, and I just like to believe that, like we were talking about, really needing to become like one with your opponent, especially in that type of an environment. I like to believe that I have the ability to bring my opponents up another level. Like if they're willing to step up to my level or to like change gears to get to where I could get, like that's only going to make it better for them. So that's like my goal, you know, is to maybe bring something different out of my opponents. And if that's like what you say you saw with Peter, I really like enjoyed the match, to be honest. He's obviously he cheated, and I know we were gonna keep it kind of kayfabe and all that, and he banged my leg up, brother, and I'm all messed up, but I really like Peter is like super duper smart, and he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly how to be Peter and what Peter's trying to do. And I definitely appreciated his offense and his input and him trying to like take my leg apart and take me out of the tournament. But unfortunately for Peter, it's just not going to happen right now, because even with one leg, I'm still going to get my bowl of Frosted Flakes.
Yeah. Hot takes and Frosted Flakes. Here we go.
Well, and I think it's so interesting too, because I think as a competitor, there's a certain aggression that was present that I think fueled Peter, but I'm curious if there was anything about Peter that you think fueled you.
Yeah. I love his character. He actually he was getting me jacked up by just being a character, strutting around in the robe, and when I watched him, like the monitor in the back, his the pre-show promo, the presentation, it just, that stuff gets me going because it reminds me of the wrestling I loved when I was a kid, you know. That got me into wrestling in general. He has that style. He has that presentation. He has that delivery. So, you know, you have to understand, this was Fruity Pebbles flavored protein, by the way. It was.
On brand.
It was. I'm such a mark. So you have to understand, I wrestle so many different people all the time, and the last like year especially, I've had such a variety of opponents, different styles of wrestling, different countries, like whatever. So when I get to wrestle someone who's like purely focused on that's who they are. They have that character. I relish in that because it's like an opportunity to show maybe a different side of me or offer a different presentation of what I can do, but I maybe don't get to do often.
You mentioned that you liked Peter's promo going into the match. I'm pretty sure at the end of that promo, he points right to the camera and says, "David Marquez, you're welcome." That reminded me a little bit of a lot of this, the promos that you've been cutting through in the weeks leading up to that match, where you look right at the camera, David Marquez, Billy Corgan, this is what you got. What's going on here? Give me some competition.
Yeah.
What have your interactions with David Marquez or Billy Corgan or both of them been like in the back? Because I know Dave is a straight shooter and he appreciates people who fucking will talk shit to him. Pardon my language on this. But he appreciates that kind of stuff. Sorry, it's the dirty daddy, it's the filthy father, the polluted padre, I think is another one. Do you have any more?
Padre, that's amazing.
Was it TK that said polluted padre?
TK said something, but I think I put those two together because I was trying to figure out more words that meant father in different languages. But anyway, sorry. The influence of the conversation has led my brain in that direction. To be articulate. So yeah, I was saying. So David Marquez likes people who will, because wrestling can be filled with people who are, like in entertainment, aren't necessarily the most truthful. So when you see a character or an individual who says, "This is what I mean, and I'm going to back it up," and if you don't like it, too tough shit. Like I know he appreciates people like that, but what have your actual face-to-face or other conversations been with him or people like Billy Corgan if Corgan has reached out to you?
I've never spoken to Billy Corgan before. I don't think Billy Corgan is interested, but I didn't know what his standing was with everything. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, if the NWA is involved, like he's the guy there or whatever.
He is, yeah.
And also, like, let's be realistic. Like, I popping my brother who like loves the Smashing Pumpkins by telling him, "Hey, look, I'm calling out Billy Corgan, and he sees this." So it's pretty funny. But Dave is cool, is the best. I've known Dave for a while. I actually was supposed to work for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood in like 2016, maybe, or something around then. 17, I can't remember.
Sure, yeah.
And I wrestled the night before in Philadelphia or South Jersey, and then I got taken to the airport, and I fell asleep on the plane, like immediately. As soon as I got on the plane, I was like out because it was like a red-eye flight, and I was going to come to LA the next day. And all of a sudden, I wake up and the plane landed already. It was like, what? I slept for like an hour. And then they were like, oh, the plane emergency landed. But didn't give any like anything else past that. And I slept through it, so I didn't know. And then it was like chaos. Everybody was like mad. And then they told us that one of the engines began to fail. There was a mechanical error and an engine was going to fail. And they had to land the plane in the nearest possible airport. And they landed in Baltimore. Yeah. And I would have slept through my death. I don't if the but you should have seen the airport, the line going to the counter and all the people freaking out. And there was like, what do they call them? The Karens. Like there was plenty of that going on. Like, and then the captain came out and he cut this promo and was talked about the engines, and the whole place just went dead silent. But long story short, obviously I didn't make it to LA for the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood taping.
So jumping over to the chat for a second, Lem says, if you were there in 2016, we could have had Bad Dude Tito versus Chris Dickinson for the Hollywood Heritage title. That's actually, I want to make that happen now that I think about it. Maybe not for the title because that wouldn't happen. But
to be honest, I think I was supposed to wrestle him.
Maybe. I think you were, yeah. That's probably exactly what you would have been brought in for.
Yeah.
But man, Alyssa, what do you think? What do you think of Tito versus Dickinson?
I think that would be one hell of a match. Holy moly! Because
I like Tito. I wrestled Tito before.
Oh, you have? I would say, because the thing that I'm really interested about in having this team, the 2v square off, is Tito is very well versed in jiu-jitsu. Actually, he's doing tournaments even now. And so I'd love to see that clash of the styles or see how you guys can kind of grapple into each other. Because you've been training with Josh Barnett, right?
Yeah, I've been training with Josh, but I have a jiu-jitsu background. I have a background in Kyokushin. I have a background in like Taekwondo. I've done my Muay Thai. I've been training in martial arts like not so much not since 2016. I kind of like got away from it, but pretty much like up until points my whole life since I was like a little kid. So I'm not like I'm not over here being like I'm Jean-Claude Van Damme or anything, but you know.
Well, do you think that in a way, I mean, I know that you said being a pro wrestler was like your lifetime dream. So do you think that MMA was a vehicle to help you get stronger in that, or did you entertain going
not
in that?
not MMA, martial arts. Like
I'm sorry.
I started doing karate before like MMA was even like a thing in the United States. Okay. And the UFC was like a thing that started when I was like an 8, 9, 10-year-old kid, and I would watch it like on pay-per-view with my dad. And then I started training at this one place when I was like 12, maybe 12, 13. My aunt was dating this guy. And this was like before there was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, before there was anything. And my aunt had this boyfriend. He was training with this guy. He was like, come and train at this place with me. I was already doing karate. He was like, come to this place. It's like a mix of everything. And the trainer was this guy, John Campatella, who was actually fought at original UFC 10. And I started like training with that guy, and then I started like wrestling and getting to amateur wrestling and like learning little things like along the way. But I mostly always did like some form of martial arts training, and it definitely made it easy getting into pro wrestling for sure. It was like when I got in the wrestling ring and learned like all the fundamentals, I was only 15 years old. So I got in the ring for like the first time, and the first time they like I learned how to bump, and I went to a good school. I had a good trainer, and I did it all right the first time, so I was blessed in that category. And what took me a long time was developing other things.
Have you ever wrestled Russ Taylor by chance? Ryan Taylor?
No, but I'd like to. He's pretty good.
I would say that's another one I'd really like to see.
Yeah,
would be that one. I could see you guys clash. Did you ever work WXW by chance, Germany?
Back in the day, here's another funny story.
Mm-hmm.
I was in 2011. I blew my knee out on a WXW show in America, and I was supposed to go to Germany and the UK that year and stay there for like 3 months or 4 months or something like that. But I blew my knee out on that show, and I took like a year and a half off from wrestling. So I wrestled for them then. I was supposed to wrestle for him WrestleMania weekend, and Felix put something on Twitter the other day that they want to use me this year, or they want to try to bring me in. I don't know. It's with everything going on, but
of course, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. I've actually never been to Germany before.
Let's see. So you've defeated Peter Avalon. Looking at the brackets here, your next match will be against the winner of either Eric Redbeard and Watts.
I love that photo of me. I look like such a meatball. Like I look so jacked. Like it's like I'm just. It's to see how posing is so deceptive. It's like I look like I could be like Lex Luger or something, but I'm really just like 220 pounds.
Man, yeah, you look about 4 feet wide there. Look at that spread. Jeez.
I love it, baby. Love it. Love it. All right, so what are we looking at here?
All right, so we're looking up on the top left here. We got Eric Redbeard and Watts. So they're facing off this coming Tuesday on Primetime Live. You will face the winner of that match, I believe, in 2 weeks on the 10th on Primetime Live.
Yeah, those dudes are like legitimately big. That guy Watts is huge, and Aaron was saying how big the Rowan Redbeard is. That I have no clue. Somebody told me that he wrestled The Rock at WrestleMania.
He did, yeah. There was so there was a wrestle. I think it's the one maybe that The Rock hosted, maybe 2016. What? Yeah, it was the one where The Rock lit the thing on fire. Remember that one?
No clue. Dude, I don't.
I'm pretty sure it was that one. And he was like, "I'm having a match right now," and then I think he hit the rock bottom, and that was it.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, I think if I'm remembering that correctly, because I didn't remember it until you said it. I was like, "Oh yeah, that did happen." That was kind of odd. So he did wrestle The Rock at WrestleMania.
I thought it was a joke. I thought he was lying to me, but that's how little.
I'm pretty positive that happened.
WWE crap,
man. I mean, so many things could go either way in wrestling. I often say that anything in wrestling that's like completely normal to us is like absolutely insane to like a regular person. So like it's like, oh, very, very casually being like, yeah, I usually say like I built a coffin once for a casket match in Arizona. And I was like talking to my girlfriend about it so plainly, and she goes, "You can't possibly talk like this." I'm like, "I can, because I just tied two guys together with a bull rope, and then they intentionally cut themselves with a razor blade.
Oh,
that's why I could talk about this."
Listen, buddy. You want to hear a real good one? I got
Yeah.
Because I'm not a deathmatch wrestler, but like I've been involved in the death matches or like really like worked to the spots and gotten blown up with like light tubes. So I have a scar over here that's like from barbed wire. It's pretty visible. Everybody could notice it because I didn't get that stitched up. So I got blown up with like light tubes on my shoulder and my neck and back. And I had to get like at least like 20 stitches. I had this really weird cut on my delt or whatever, and it was on the 4th of July.
So we just like, me and my friends stayed at the show and like hung out and like partied and stuff like for like hours after I had already gotten blown up, and I was like bleeding out everywhere, and it wouldn't stop bleeding. So I was like, I have to get stitches. So like I was covered in like blood, and I looked like a mess, and I'm walking into the emergency room like completely shirtless. And like I look like and the people were just like, "Are you okay? Have you been hurt? Is someone after you? Tell us. You listen. We're gonna take you in another room. You have to tell us. Are you safe? Like, is it safe? Are you hiding anything from us?" And I was
my God.
And I was like, I was like, I don't ever want to show people in the hospital what I really do. Maybe get back to my insurance company. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Yeah.
So like, I'm like, listen, and I just like showed my phone to the nurse, and it was me doing like an insane tombstone pile driver to like someone and I was wearing like karate pants, like covered in blood. And I was like, this is like what I do. So it is what it is. And like, I've been in this hospital like several times over the last year. I had like the back of my head split open. I had to go get like 8 staples. So it's always like interesting having
Chris, come on back. They're like, hey, it's Chris, come on back.
Yeah, it's like, so when you have to explain to people, yeah, they don't get it, but I try to like not talk about it. I'm like, oh, I just like something. I told them like light tubes fell on me from something in my garage or whatever, and like they didn't believe it, and I just was like, okay, I'll show you what happened.
That's funny. It reminds me when you mentioned before that you kind of waited a little bit and you guys were just kind of having fun before you went out. Since you mentioned UFC, sorry, sometimes I get ahead of myself. Since you mentioned UFC, watching the early UFCs, there was a 30 for 30 podcast actually where they talked about the first UFC ever, and it was like quite a bloodbath, and the producers were running around super like anxious, like we were going to have lawsuits, so there's all these deaths on our hand, and then they're like, no, the guys are just in the bar. They all came back from the hospital and they were just chilling, they're drinking, and they're like, what? And they're like, this is what these people are like. It's fine. We all get it. And,
Yeah, I could imagine the Dave Marquezes of the first UFC show like losing their mind. Like, yeah, absolutely.
My God. Okay, so getting back to Redbeard and to Watts, we've seen you go against bigger opponents before. Alyssa, I believe you called Dickinson versus Anthony Idol. Was that right? Were you there for that episode?
Yeah, I was there.
How was it watching Chris overcome such a person of stature like an Anthony Idol, leading into this match with Watts and or potentially against Redbeard?
Well, it's actually interesting because I wonder, the skill and the mindset is all things that come into play, regardless of kind of the stature of the opponent. Obviously you'll be in situations where it's like, oh, this person obviously has the upper hand, just physically looking at like a very imposing figure. But I think there's always ways to work around it. And I'm honestly, I just wonder what are the things you take away from facing an opponent that is a little bit physically maybe more imposing that you can bring to the next matchup, whether it's Redbeard or Watts.
I usually go into every match with a pretty well thought out game plan. I like to think of like how I'm gonna like eventually beat my opponent. So with like a bigger person, obviously I have to like think more into it. Like, oh, am I gonna attack one of his legs? Am I gonna like work on the one leg? Am I gonna stretch that out and try to cripple my opponent? Kind of like what Peter did to me. Similar, you know what I mean? Just my submission acumen is just a little bit more advanced. So I have like a larger variety of things I could do to somebody's leg. So maybe someone who is like a lot bigger than me, I'll try to get under them and like get them on the mat and get on top of them, because regardless of how big you are, when you do have something on your chest holding you down that's like 230 pounds, and you know how to put your weight on someone, you could still keep them down on the ground. That's kind of like you ever see, go back to like the old UFC stuff. Mm-hmm. The really big, like they'd put those like spectacle looking guys in there that were like 400-pound fat guys who were like, he won like a shoot fight in his at the tough man contest or something. Like, you get one of those guys on their back and they're toast, unless they're like really highly skilled or really athletic. Like if you get like a big person on the ground and you just like could keep them on the ground, they're just screwed until they basically lose all their energy, and then you could just pick them apart. So that's kind of a strategy I like to employ in professional wrestling, because it makes sense. I have larger opponents, so what are ways that I could use them against themselves, to my advantage, use their size against them. You have to think about that.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I mentioned, kind of mounting a guy and going at with it. From a referee perspective, I think one way of winning that people don't take advantage of enough, especially with a lot of striking game being upped with most wrestlers, is just trying to get a referee stoppage or some kind of technical knockout. So I think that could be, maybe if you're interested in taking suggestions, if it's possible to do that, maybe try to get something like that for one of these two bigger guys if you can get them down.
Yeah, I don't know. Who the hell? Big dudes are scary. They can like step on your foot the wrong way and like break your foot. It's dangerous.
Alyssa, did you have something to add before I went into ref stoppage land?
Ref stoppage land.
I was on the way to ref stoppage land with you. So. Okay,
excellent. Well, as we're kind of winding down here, Chris, once again, thank you for joining us. Congratulations on your first victory with the United Wrestling Network World Title Tournament. Again, we'll see who your opponent will be in 2 weeks. We'll see that person, who the winner is, this coming Tuesday, 11/3 on Primetime Live. And so where can people follow you online, Chris?
I definitely post on Instagram like all the time. I have no life, so I just go to the gym and work out twice a day. I work out like twice a day, and if I go to the gym once, and then I just eat food and watch wrestling. That's it. So I just post crap on Instagram all day.
What's your handle?
At Born Dirty Die Dirty, and then on Twitter it's at Dirty Dickinson.
Excellent. Yeah. Alyssa, any final thoughts or things leading into this coming Tuesday? Or you recently returned to Championship Wrestling from Hollywood also.
Yeah, so it was very, very fun to rejoin the broadcast in the capacity of the commentary team. So that's been really fun to call some of the action with Todd Kennelly and Bulletproof Troop, or as he is in the Halloween episode, Bulletproof Troop. We had way too much fun on the Halloween episode, so make sure you tune in and watch it because there's puns galore.
Yes, please. I'd say everyone tune into Championship Wrestling from Halloween. Airs today, featuring Alyssa Marino, and of course Chris Dickinson takes on Sweet Robin Shaw. Alyssa, what is your handle for social media there before we head out?
Yeah, so I am AYY_Marino, like A Marino, at Twitter and on Instagram.
Excellent.
You're not gonna put over the show?
We did that in the beginning of the show. Let's get cereal. If you follow me on Instagram, you see it there. It's also on YouTube. Go check it out.
It has to be the #1 priority. Cereal, it takes precedent over all.
We're coming full circle here. I feel farther from getting Chris on Let's Get Cereal than we were when we even began this. So I hope that we're able to lobby for some kind of guest appearance there. Chris, if you need representation, I know some people I can help you out with Hollywood.
You're going to have to talk to my agent, Marino. I don't know if this is, you're going to have to work.
My people will talk to your people.
We'll see. And we'll negotiate on what t-shirt to wear, possibly the Chris Dickinson official United Wrestling Network t-shirt, which is available on UnitedWrestlingShop.com.
Hey, that's a really sick design.
Right?
That was designed by this girl in Australia who's designed some of the hottest shirts ever. Yeah.
Oh, that's an awesome shirt. I can't wait to see that. I haven't seen it in person yet, but the print online looks amazing.
Yeah, it's really dope.
It's one of the coolest ones I've seen so far. So make sure to check that out again. UnitedWrestlingShop.com. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at United Wrestling, at United Wrestling Network on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I'm at Nicholas Bonanno. Watch Primetime live every Tuesday on pay-per-view. That's on DirecTV, in-demand pay-per-view, and on Fight Online. And you'll enjoy it. Also, check out Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. Like I said, the Halloween episode airs today. You can catch the replay on Fight tomorrow if you don't get. Otherwise, check your local listings for the actual television airing. But a lot of exciting things happening with the United Wrestling Network, so you don't want to miss it. Thank you, Alyssa. Thank you for Chris for coming on, and we'll see you all in the ring.